Hello, and welcome to the Spotlight series here at Life Sciences New York, a regular series of conversations with life sciences leaders, founders, entrepreneurs, and folks who service the New York's life sciences industry. I'm super pleased to be joined today by Dennis Sapien-Pangindian, the founding attorney at DSP Advocates. Uh, Dennis and DSP Advocates are relatively new members here at Life Sciences New York. And so, Dennis, we want to welcome you to Life Sciences New York, and it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be part of the community.
So, Dennis, let's start, if you don't mind, with a little history and background. Tell us about your background and what brings you to this place.
Sure. I think to understand it fully, I think you got to go back to the beginning a little bit. I'm very mission oriented. Uh, yeah, before I even went to law school, I was working for the Catholic Church. I was getting my master's in theology, and my mentor at the time, he was a bioethicist, so he kind of put me on to healthcare, bioethics issues. And as we started more talking about issues, I started getting more interested in the legal questions that were surrounding some of these things more than the theological. And so I went to Loyola Chicago. They have a great health law program. I went there specifically for healthcare law. And in that world, in my years there, I found the whole wonderful world of healthcare fraud and abuse issues in the healthcare and life sciences industry. And straight out of the gate, out of law school, I joined the Inspector General's office for the Department of Health and Human Services. I was within the Administrative and Civil Remedies branch. They're the branch that represents HHS in all civil and administrative enforcement matters related to healthcare fraud and abuse. So we worked with DOJ on a lot of the False Claims Act cases, as well as representing the agency in utilizing its own enforcement authorities. And I did that for several years before going to the private sector. And I was at some big firms out there in the healthcare and life sciences space, really advising clients on compliance issues and just really enjoying aligning myself with the mission of the clients at that time now. It went from the mission at OIG to the mission of every single client I work with now. And that's one of the reasons why I started DSP Advocates last year. It was so that I can work with really, really great, innovative disruptors in the industry that are trying to change the industry for good, provide better patient outcomes, and are just really doing really amazing, creative, and wonderful things for the benefit of people's healthcare. And to do so in a way that aligns with their mission, that is cost effective and creates value, that's sort of why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
So let's, if you don't mind, let's nerd out a little bit, kind of,
Sure.
as someone who also spent some time in the compliance space. I think it's fair to say that for many founders, many researchers, right, um, the compliance process and dealing with government inquiries or supervising inquiries can be a really intimidating process. Kind
Right.
of cumbersome at times, feels a little intrusive, I think is fair to say. I'd be curious to know from your perspective how you approach these types of issues. How do you help your clients navigate the process, set expectations, understand what it is that they need to do?
Definitely. I think I approach it from two angles, right? I think when we get to the area of government investigations and government enforcement, that's one like sort of extreme that I really try to dig in and be very proactive, be very quick and efficient so that the client can just go about their business and go about their mission and get back to the good work that they're doing. And so I I try my best to reach out to whoever the regulator is that may be conducting an inquiry, try to understand what they're looking into, and then start telling the client's story. Because a lot of the times when government is looking into these cases, they either have a misunderstanding of what's actually happening, or they have a misunderstanding of the law sometimes. And so sometimes you have to guide them that way. And so it's really about proactive engagement with the regulator on the enforcement angle. But I think that's just a small part of it too, because yes, that's like everyone's nightmare. You get a subpoena, you get a CID and all that stuff. And I'm there to help them sleep at night through those hard times. But I'm also there because I like to think of compliance almost it really can be a competitive advantage too for companies and my clients that are especially in the growth stages, because if you can demonstrate robust compliance early on, you're only going to attract more investors, you're going to attract more interest, and you're going to be better primed, especially if you're developing a product or something, so that when you go to market, you're going to be much better equipped to handle the regulatory issues that come along with that. If you build in compliance into the DNA of your company.
Yeah, so say more about that because and shame on me, we kind of jumped right into the bad news of of an inquiry or an audit. I think it's fair to say, based on conversations that you and I have had, that your approach really is to find ways to build company structures in a way that provides assurance of integrity and avoid some of these problems. So just kind of help operationalize that for me. For a founder or an emerging company that is putting together its structure, what are some of the things that they should be looking out for? What are some of the things that you find yourself working with your clients on?
Definitely. The way I like to think about compliance is it's like a well-fitting suit, right? It's not going to be one size fits all. Yes, there are the seven elements of an effective compliance program that, the government puts guidances out on, but the way that you operationalize that should be tailored to your needs. That's why one of my taglines is bespoke legal advocacy, right? Because I want to tailor compliance to your needs, the risks that you're specifically facing, and in a way that accommodates your current financial situation. Because as a growing company, not everyone can afford a full-time compliance officer or all the robust bells and whistles that comes with a compliance program that, say, like a Fortune 500 might have, right? So I'm here really effectively to not give you compliance in a box, but really be your consigliere, right? I'm your compliance tailor. I'm gonna tell you, okay, these are your most imminent risks. These are your high priorities, and here's the best way that you can address them uh, in a cost-effective way, but that not isn't just cost effective, but actually mission effective, because it won't only keep the government away from your door, but it will set you up for success as your company continues to evolve and grow, right? So thinking about it from understanding what specifically your mission is, what your service or product does, identifying the risks associated with that, and then building effective compliance controls tailored to those risks. I think that's a sort of precision that I provide my clients.
I was struck too as I listened to you identify that a vigorous compliance or a visible compliance structure is really a pathway to being a more attractive company with respect to investors. So often I think it's fair to say we think of lawyers as firefighters, right? That we call in to do the rescue once the house is burning.
Right.
And so at the same time, we certainly hear from early stage companies and from investors all the time who say, listen, Before we're prepared to make investments, we need to be assured that this venture has the structure and infrastructure around it to be a solid investment. And I'm curious if you got any thoughts on how to approach a compliance program in a way that meets the needs of the investor community.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is, and this is from my experience, I've been called in to do due diligence for transactional teams, and I've seen deals go by swimmingly, and I've also seen deals fall apart because of big compliance misses, right? And so I think not only having the compliance program, but good documentation of it. Because that's going to help you on both sides of the street, right? Whether it be a government inquiry or an investor looking to be a part of your growth. And documentation. That showing your work is really showing your worth. And if you can't tell the story through your documentation, then it's just going to make it much more difficult to have that appeal as a compliant ready organization, right? And so I think the key thing is how do you properly document it? How do you track your compliance efforts? What KPIs are you using? And you really approach compliance just like any other business function, right? With the same level of analytics, appropriate metrics, and it's just as vital as say like your financial numbers. And when it comes to that sort of aspect.
One of the things I'm imagining as I'm listening to you talk is a couple of heads exploding, thinking, "Oh my God, here's another thing that I got to worry about. Here's another thing that I've got to add to my list of to-dos." And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how how the work that you do and the services you provide can kind of lift some of that burden and give your clients assurances that they are providing the type of structures that they need to both to be compliant and also to be attractive to investors.
Right. So I effectively act as, I could be your fractional general counsel, your fractional compliance officer. And again, my mission is to let you do your mission, let you do your job the best of your ability. And I'll worry about those things and just report out to you as needed and cover those bases for you. Right. So I have a client right now where I'm helping them set up and I'm going to be managing their ethics hotline. And I'll be conducting investigations for that company for any compliance violations that get reported for them. I have another company where I'm helping them develop policies and procedures that address the specific risks to their business model. So, and then I'm going to help train their personnel on those policies and procedures. So, hitting those seven elements of a compliance program, but really managing it for my clients, that's what I do. And so I'll manage all those things just in the same way that you might have a tax guy or your bookkeeper. I'm your compliance guy, and I will manage that for you. I will be open and transparent with you so that you have clear visibility and awareness of what you need to know, but not overburdening you at the same time with the remedial tasks of a compliance program.
Tell me, kind of when's the right time to reach out to you or to an attorney to help work in this process?
It's never too late. And it's never too early because no matter what your scope or your budget is, I can work with you on that. I try to prioritize flat fees or subscription fees as much as possible. One of the things I like to do is to provide services to clients that are predictable, transparent, and affordable. And so no matter what stage you're in, obviously, yes, if you get a subpoena, call me. But also, if you have a great idea, if you're just getting it off the ground, call me then too, because I can walk you through. okay, you're looking at your first 10 steps to launch your idea off the ground, but then I'm going to look 100 yards ahead because I want to look out on the horizon and see what risks might be coming your way over there. And the better we can equip you uh, earlier on, uh, the easier you'll be able to ride those waves when they do come in. And so like I said, it's never too late and it's never too early. And and even if like you catch something going on that's wrong, there's ways to remediate that, right? So we'll work with you in whatever circumstances you're in.
And in the kind of remaining time that we've got, I'd love to get your insights into kind of where you see the life sciences industry headed. What are the big challenges? What are the things that you think our audience needs to know?
I think that regulator risks are only going to keep increasing. You see this with white collar crime priorities for the DOJ. Healthcare fraud is at the top of that list, right? If it's a Democrat, Republican, it's a bipartisan issue combating fraud, waste, and abuse in the healthcare and life sciences industry. And you see this with DOJ ramping up their strike force teams, their regional strike force teams. You see this with states ramping up attorney general enforcement actions. And you with the use of AI and data trends, it only makes it that much easier, not just for the government to root out potential fraud, waste, and abuse or potential risks or high risk actors, but it also makes whistleblowers much more easier to come by this data and make a whistleblower case against people, right? So, and but data doesn't always tell the full story, and I think that's where compliance comes in. And so, what if and when that does happen, having a robust compliance program to tell your story is the best shield against all those growing regulatory risks.
Terrific. So, Dennis, for folks who are interested in learning more about you and the work at DSP Advocates, we'll include your URL in the chat so folks can find you there.
Right?
How should they best connect with you?
Yes, on my website, dspadvocates.com, you can click on a link to schedule a consultation. But also, if you just need some resources, I run a legal blog on there called Asked and Answered. So check that out. I try to run it, each title being almost like a Q&A format. So you can search by whatever issue you're trying to look into. And if you need more advice or need legal counsel, feel free to reach out.
Well, terrific. Dennis Sapien-Pangindian, founding attorney at DSP Advocates. Dennis, thank you for spending some time with us today. This has been a terrific conversation, and I know it's spurred some interest among our audience. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Win. Pleasure to be
All
here.
right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.